Forget everything you know about stealth airframes and kinetic dogfights. While the world chases invisible planes, Sweden is perfecting a distributed combat cloud that turns the Gripen into a lethal, decentralized intelligence node. Is software-defined warfare actually more dangerous than traditional stealth? Discover how algorithmic superiority is redefining the 6th-gen era. In the freezing expanse of the Arctic theater, a revolution in aerial warfare is unfolding in silence. Sweden's new secret weapon isn't a missile, but a resilient data link architecture that fuses real-time sensor data across the entire battlespace. This is how the Gripen survives and dominates tomorrow's high-tech conflicts through sheer information dominance. The era of the lone wolf pilot is over. Welcome to the age of the combat cloud. By prioritizing sensor fusion over airframe geometry, Sweden has unlocked the key to 6th-gen viability for the Gripen. We are dissecting the sophisticated software-defined strategy that ensures tactical superiority through unstoppable, decentralized algorithmic warfare.
For decades, air superiority was defined by one word: stealth. A fighter jet had to be shaped in a way that reduced radar reflection. Its surface had to be covered with radar-absorbent materials. Its entire design philosophy was built around one mission: enter enemy airspace, avoid detection, strike the target, and disappear. But in 2026, the rules of air warfare are changing. Today, survival in the sky is no longer decided only by the shape of an aircraft or the coating on its body. Modern battlefields are filled with long-range radars, passive sensors, infrared search systems, electronic warfare aircraft, satellites, drones, and real-time data networks. These systems are becoming smarter, faster, and more connected. This does not mean stealth is useless. Stealth is still extremely powerful, but stealth alone is no longer enough. And this is where Sweden's approach becomes different. While some countries depend on expensive stealth coatings, complex maintenance systems, and highly protected airbases, Sweden has focused on another kind of invisibility: digital invisibility. This means the aircraft does not only try to hide from radar, it tries to confuse the enemy's sensors, jam hostile signals, reduce its own electronic signature, share data silently, and operate as part of a wider combat network. Instead of asking, "Can the enemy see the aircraft?" Sweden asks a more dangerous question: can the enemy understand what it is seeing before it is too late? That is the philosophy behind the Gripen EF. The Gripen is not just designed as a fighter that carries missiles and drops bombs. It is designed as a modular combat platform, a flying node inside a much larger digital battlefield. Its real power is not only its weapons. Its real power is its software, sensors, electronic warfare systems, and ability to share information across the battlespace. In a future conflict, one Gripen may activate its radar while another stays silent.
One aircraft may detect a threat, another may process the data, and a third may launch the weapon. To the enemy, the attack may appear from one direction, while the real kill chain is spread across multiple aircraft, sensors, and command systems. This is not traditional air combat anymore. This is a distributed combat cloud, and the Gripen EF is built to live inside that cloud. Unlike older fighter designs, where major upgrades often require expensive and time-consuming hardware changes, Gripen's modern architecture is built around flexibility. Its systems are designed to be updated faster, integrated with new technologies, and adapted to new missions as threats evolve. That matters because the future battlefield will not wait for a 10-year upgrade cycle. New radars will appear, new missiles will emerge, new drones will enter the fight, new electronic warfare threats will evolve. And the fighter that survives will not simply be the one with the best shape, it will be the one that can adapt the fastest. This is why Sweden's future air power vision goes beyond traditional stealth. It is not trying to copy the American model. It is building something more compact, more flexible, and potentially more survivable for a small nation facing a larger threat. Gripen EF is not a 6th-generation fighter by itself, but it could become a key bridge towards Sweden's future 6th-generation air combat ecosystem, a system where manned fighters, unmanned drones, sensors, electronic warfare, artificial intelligence, and real-time data sharing work together as one connected force. So when people ask, can Gripen survive without classic stealth? Sweden's answer is simple. The future of survival is not only about hiding the aircraft, it is about hiding the truth of the battlefield. And that is where Sweden's distributed combat cloud begins.
In the old model of air combat, a fighter jet was mainly a weapon carrier. It had a radar, it had missiles, it had a pilot. It received orders, entered the battlefield, attacked the target, and returned to base. But Sweden's future air combat idea is moving far beyond that. In a distributed combat cloud, every Gripen is not just a fighter, it becomes an intelligence node, a flying sensor, a processor, a communicator, and a decision point inside a much larger battlefield network. Think of it like this. One Gripen sees a threat. Another Gripen confirms it. A ground radar adds another layer of information. An airborne early warning aircraft expands the picture, and a future unmanned system may move forward silently to observe or engage. No single aircraft owns the whole battlefield picture. The picture is shared, and that is what makes the system dangerous. Saab publicly describes the Gripen E as having advanced sensors, cross-domain data gathering, and networked sensor fusion, meaning the aircraft is designed to collect information, process it, and help the pilot understand the battlefield faster than the enemy can react. Saab's future fighter studies with Sweden's FMV also focus on manned and unmanned solutions in a wider system of systems approach. This is the real transition, from simple data links to a combat cloud. A basic data link only shares selected information. It may pass target tracks, positions, or commands between aircraft. Useful, but limited. A combat cloud is different. It is built around the idea that raw sensor information, fused tracks, electronic signals, radar detections, and mission updates can move across the force almost instantly. Instead of one pilot trying to understand everything alone, the entire fleet becomes a shared brain. One Gripen may detect an enemy radar pulse. Another may classify the signal. A third may stay silent and receive the information. A fourth may be in the best position to act. To the enemy, it may look like 4 separate aircraft, but in reality, they are behaving like one connected machine. This is where Sweden's geography matters. Sweden does not plan air combat from the comfort of unlimited bases. Its doctrine has always been shaped by harsh weather, long distances, northern terrain, dispersed runways, and the threat of a larger adversary.
In an Arctic or Baltic conflict, the first attack may not be aimed at aircraft. It may be aimed at the network, satellites, command centers, radar stations, and communication links. So the system has to survive even when the perfect network disappears. That is why decentralization matters. If one satellite link is jammed, the entire fleet should not go blind. If one command center is attacked, the mission should not collapse. If one aircraft is lost, the rest of the network should not freeze. A decentralized combat cloud is built to avoid a single point of failure. Instead of forcing every aircraft to depend on one central brain, the intelligence is spread across multiple nodes. Each Gripen can collect, process, and pass information through other aircraft or available sensors. If one connection is blocked, the network can shift. If one pathway is denied, another pathway can carry the data. That is the idea behind a self-healing mesh network. Not one fragile line, a web. And in that web, the Gripen becomes more than a fighter. It becomes a high-speed battlefield server in the sky. The pilot is no longer simply looking at radar returns. He is looking at a living, constantly updated combat picture, built from the eyes and ears of the entire force. This changes the tempo of war. The side that sees first does not just shoot first, it decides first, it maneuvers first, it disappears first, and it forces the enemy to fight against a picture they cannot fully understand. That is the hidden power of Sweden's distributed model. It does not depend on one giant platform to dominate the sky. It spreads intelligence across many smaller, faster, adaptable nodes. And if future Gripen systems connect with drones, electronic warfare aircraft, ground sensors, and allied NATO networks, The result could be a battlefield where Sweden's Air Force does not fight as separate jets. It fights as a cloud, a decentralized brain, a digital swarm of information. And in future sixth-generation warfare, that may be just as important as speed, stealth, or firepower.
In the Arctic theater, the next air battle may not begin with a missile launch. It may begin with a signal, a radar pulse in the distance, a heat signature moving through cloud cover, a hostile aircraft switching on its sensor for only a few seconds, a ground-based air defense system trying to hide inside electronic noise. And in that moment, the pilot does not have time to manually compare every radar return, every infrared contact, every electronic signal, and every threat warning. That is where algorithmic warfare begins. Inside a modern Gripen-centered combat cloud, the aircraft is not just collecting information, it is fusing it. Radar data, infrared search data, electronic warfare signals, data link inputs, ground sensors, and airborne early warning information can be combined into one tactical picture. Saab describes Gripen E as using silent networking and total sensor fusion across a tactical air unit, where one aircraft can stay active while others remain passive. To the pilot, this creates something close to a battlefield God view, not because the aircraft sees everything perfectly, but because it reduces chaos into clarity. Instead of showing the pilot a confusing wall of raw signals, the system builds a unified combat picture, where the threats are, what type of threats they may be, which ones are moving, which ones are emitting, which ones are dangerous, and which ones can be ignored for now. This is the real value of sensor fusion. It does not simply give the pilot more information, it gives the pilot usable information. And in a high-speed Arctic conflict, that difference can decide who survives. Because the Arctic is not a normal battlefield, weather changes fast, distances are huge, bases are limited, satellite links can be jammed, radar coverage can be uneven. And in that frozen battle space, the pilot may have only seconds to decide whether to engage, evade, stay silent, or pass the target to another platform. That is why AI-assisted prioritization becomes so important. The future pilot will not need every piece of data. He will need the right data at the right moment in the right order. AI-driven decision support can help filter massive amounts of information and highlight the most lethal threats first: an incoming missile, a hostile radar lock, an enemy fighter entering launch range, or an air defense system preparing to fire. This does not mean the machine replaces the pilot. It means the machine protects the pilot from being buried under data. The human still makes the critical decision, but the system helps him see the battlefield faster than the enemy can understand it. And Sweden is already moving in this direction.
In 2025, Saab and Helsing tested an AI agent called Centaur flying a Gripen E in beyond visual range combat trials against a human-operated Gripen D. Reuters reported that the trials were part of Sweden's future air combat studies, focused on crewed and uncrewed systems with human oversight still central to Western defense frameworks. That matters because future air combat will not be about one pilot versus one pilot. It will be about one network versus another network. And this is where silent hunting becomes terrifying. Imagine this. One Gripen flies forward, staying passive. It does not shout with its radar. It listens. It collects electronic signals. It receives data from other aircraft, ground sensors, or an early warning platform. Miles away, another Gripen stays hidden in a better launch position. The first aircraft tracks the target. The second aircraft fires the missile. The enemy sees the weapon coming, but may not understand who actually launched it, who guided the kill chain, or where the real threat is located. That is the tactical advantage of distributed combat. The aircraft that sees the target does not always have to be the aircraft that shoots the target. One jet can detect, another can classify, another can jam, another can launch, and another can disappear before the enemy even completes the picture. This breaks the traditional logic of air combat. In older warfare, if you found the shooter, you found the threat. But in a combat cloud, the shooter may only be one small part of a much larger digital weapon system. The real threat is the network. A Gripen formation can behave like a pack of hunters spread across the sky. Some aircraft remain silent, some feed data, some create confusion, some carry weapons, but together they operate as one distributed intelligence machine. And in the Arctic, where a larger enemy may try to jam satellites, disrupt communications, and overwhelm command centers, this kind of algorithmic warfare gives Sweden a different type of advantage. Not bigger numbers, not heavier aircraft, not traditional stealth dominance, but speed of understanding. The side that understands the battlefield first controls the next move. And when Gripen's sensor fusion, AI-assisted prioritization, electronic warfare, and silent networking come together, the pilot is no longer just flying a fighter jet. He is sitting inside a living combat algorithm, a system designed to see through noise, think through chaos, strike through silence. And in future sixth-generation warfare, that may be the most dangerous weapon of all.
Sweden's future air power is not based only on fighter jets, but on a connected multi-domain combat cloud. In this system, the Gripen does not fight alone. It receives data from ground radars, naval sensors, airborne early warning aircraft, electronic warfare systems, and future unmanned loyal wingmen. This gives the pilot a wider battlefield picture without exposing the aircraft first. Instead of one sensor guiding one shooter, Sweden uses a kill web where different platforms detect, confirm, jam, and strike together. In dangerous A2AD zones, unmanned aircraft can move ahead to collect data or act as decoys, while Gripen stays safer. The biggest challenge is enemy jamming, so resilient communication, software-defined radios, and flexible data links become essential. If one signal is blocked, the network can shift to another path. This makes Sweden's real advantage not just a better jet, but a stronger, smarter, and harder-to-break combat network.
Sweden's Gripen strategy is not about building the biggest or stealthiest fighter, but about evolving faster than the enemy. Gripen E's software-focused architecture allows quicker updates to mission systems, sensors, electronic warfare tools, cockpit functions, and threat libraries without major hardware changes. This makes the aircraft more adaptable in modern warfare, where radars, missiles, drones, and jamming techniques change quickly. Instead of competing directly with larger sixth-generation programs like NGAD or Tempest, Sweden focuses on a connected, affordable, and upgradable fighter ecosystem. Gripen becomes a bridge between today's fighters and tomorrow's combat cloud, where manned aircraft, unmanned wingmen, sensors, and data networks work together. Its real strength is not brute force, but faster decision-making, quicker adaptation, and the ability to stay useful even as the battlefield changes. Like and subscribe to my channel, Skyjet Wings. Thanks for watching.